Have you built the wrong kind of business for yourself? Let me see if this resonates. You had a cool idea for a business and you started working to make it grow. You put time, you put effort, but as it was starting to take off, you suddenly felt something wasn't quite right. And you started wondering, have I created the wrong kind of business for myself? Well, you're not alone if that happened to you. This is very, very common for introverts and for highly sensitive people. And that's exactly what happened to my guest too. Hi, this is Charo from Thriving After Life Storms. Give me 10 seconds and we'll be right back with a ton of ideas that you can start implementing to rebuild a business that is more in alignment with who you are. Hey, this is Charo and you're listening to Thriving After Life Storms. Okay, so here we are talking about how to reinvent your business when you're a sensitive entrepreneur or you're an introvert. Because as I've mentioned before, sometimes the need to reinvent what we are doing doesn't come from outside. It doesn't come from a bad economy or from a personal crisis with a family member, for example. No, it comes from within, from something that doesn't feel right. And it leads us to stop and rethink what it is that we are doing. And our guest today, she knows a thing or two about that, right, Val?
Yes, definitely. From experience.
Yeah, thank you for being here and welcome to this interview series. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
My pleasure. Before I forget, because, well, today it's been a bit messy, I just want to be transparent with you. I want to read Val's bio before I forget. So Val Nelson is a career and business coach for introverts and highly sensitive people who want meaningful work without the overwhelm. As an introvert and a HSP herself, she used to think self-employment was not for her. Yet now she enjoys having a thriving business and has learned there are a lot of myths about what is possible or not. She believes strongly that living your true purpose is a practical possibility and enjoys helping people find what works for them. She does this through individual coaching, small groups, her online courses, and her blog. Okay, and at the end, I'll share Val's website, and you will also be able to find her website on the show notes, okay? So Val, again, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you. I've really enjoyed our conversation so far. So it's lovely to get to do this with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get together on the same page so we're all knowing about what it is we're talking about. So Val, please, can you give us some signs that will allow people to know if their business is not right, something isn't in harmony with who they are? Could you give us some ideas on that?
Yeah, definitely. In the broad sense, it's just something feels off. You know, you're exhausted, you feel drained, there's a heartache, there's a sense of maybe what some people call burnout. And the problem is this happens, and this sounds so obvious when I say that, and people can be doing that, but still feel like they just need to push harder. It's like, I just need to say something so obvious, like if you're feeling crummy, something's off. But it can feel like a heartache. It can feel like envy, which I think is interesting. Like you see someone, well, how come they get to do that? If you notice a lot of envy of what other people are doing, that's actually a healthy sign from your heart that's saying, hey, there's something else possible that I want you to notice. So that's actually a heart calling. And I've had the experience, and I've seen it happen to people where they're doing something they love. It really feels meaningful. They're having an impact. They love it on so many levels. It fits their skills, but still something's off. They're really crashing on the weekends, for instance, like having to recover all weekend from their week. And that has happened to me. Like I didn't understand. I like it. It fits my skills, my experience. I care about it. But the part that's off is not taking care of our physical needs very well because we're so passionate about it. Like that's out of harmony with who we are as well. If we're not doing that good self-care with less hours, those things that really help us recharge. And as a sensitive person, we need extra of that, extra spaciousness and quiet more than the people that are around us maybe. And so it's easy to forget and to deny because you want to fit in or something. So it can be off in lots of ways, but something just says, we got to listen to it.
That's so fascinating because, not many people consider that when you're using your skills, when you love what you're doing, when you're passionate about it and it feels on purpose, it still could be out of alignment. And that's something very unique I found in your work. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think because I'm highly sensitive and an introvert, and I've felt like the freaky one because of that for so much of my life.
Who hasn't?
Yeah. So I've had to really be on top of that. And so I find myself talking about it a lot. And I like helping others like me because it's so easy for us out of caring to go too far, right? Or to feel like we've got to fit in because, that's just a human drive. We want to fit in and be liked and all that. So it's a challenge. We have to do, extra work around that. And for me, it's not that hard anymore. I don't have to try that hard because it's just part of my systems. It's part of working from home and being self-employed. I have more control over my day. I leave a lot of spaciousness in my calendar. Most people would go, how come you don't fill more of that in? But it's like, no, this is what I need in order to be there, truly be present with my clients.
Interesting. I think that all those things you've been describing, the burnout, the being tired, the exhaustion, all that, I might be wrong, but it's my impression that this is mostly an issue for introverts and highly sensitive people, that probably other types of personalities, personality preferences, extroverts and other kind of people don't suffer from this issue so much. Would you agree with that?
No, I think burnout is way too common for everyone. I would say it's a very, in a lot of Western cultures, especially the United States, can be so go, go, go that it's even too much for extroverts.
Okay.
And especially if you have a high achiever part of you, that's sort of an archetype as well. My husband's one of these people. He's like, go, go, go. And even he has a job that is wonderful, but I can even see him trying to work harder than he really needs to because it's just so ingrained. And I'm like, no, you've got the right job now. It's really aligned. It's time to learn a different way of being. So I feel a lot better now that he's in this job.
So then let me ask you, what's in introverted people and highly sensitive ones that makes us different? What do we have in common? I mean, I'm an introvert and I'm also highly sensitive, but not every highly sensitive is an introvert. So which are the traits or the characteristics that the commonalities that we share? Because it could be an introvert and not be highly sensitive. So those things could happen. But what makes us unique in that regards to respect to a business? What's different on our personality, and what are the commonalities between those two personality types?
So the word overstimulation comes to mind for me. We can more easily get overstimulated, especially if we are around groups of people more of the time than works for us. And everyone has a different balance point. So, I might want more people time than the next introverted, highly sensitive person. But we all have our different places, and it can change week to week. You might be tired, you might just be a little more drained, but we just have to be careful around not getting overstimulated, especially around people time. But it can be other types of overstimulation, like loud noises or, just all kinds of just fast-paced things. Shopping malls. I pretty much never go to one. It's just too much for my body and mind. I'm exhausted. Yeah, I don't like it. So I'm just careful about what I do. So we have certain things that can be overstimulating and exhausting for us. So we have to know what those are. We have to know where our set points are.
Makes
another
sense.
Another thing that's really in common, that can be in common for introverts and highly sensitive people to look out for, is we have some wonderful abilities to read people, to wait and read the room before responding. We can see things that maybe other people can't. So we bring these wonderful talents around reading people, which makes us really good at business and marketing, by the way. If we tune into those parts of our strengths, instead of thinking, well, I have to go to those networking events that drain me and put on an extrovert mask or something like that. Like, we don't need to do that. We can do things like one-on-one networking instead, which we're great at, one-on-one connection and genuinely connecting. We just think we're like, if we're not conscious, we'll start to think we have to do it a certain way. So when we do things our way that aligns with our strengths and we take good care of ourselves, that can work really well. So those are some things that introverts and highly sensitive people have in common. Those certain kinds of people skills that we want to lean on instead of the other kind that extroverts might like better. Yeah, I mean, we just need that certain kinds of downtime and spaciousness. One thing that's a little different, I'll say, is that I would say, my guess, it's hard for me to say personally because I am both introverted and highly sensitive.
Right.
But my guess is that, and from seeing my clients, I have clients who are one or the other or both, so I kind of seen that up close. Highly sensitive people are probably a little more prone to overstimulation, so I think we might have to be a little extra cautious. And we also seem to have an extra sensory ability to read people and the energy of the room. So the combination of introversion and high sensitivity is really, I think, a superpower when it comes to reading energy.
Yeah, definitely. And it can, as you know, I'm a sci-fi fan, so with a great superpower comes a great responsibility from, Spider-Man.
Yes.
It's
Octavia
true.
Butler's books. Have you read her? She's a science fiction writer. She has a main character who's highly, highly sensitive, like off the charts of, like literally feels.
I need to read that. I had no clue.
Yeah.
Make sure to send me the information so we can share that on the show notes for other sci-fi fans like me and you. Sounds like.
Yes.
Okay, well, you've mentioned something that I want to ask you more, but a bit later, the networking thing. I think it's a hot topic for introverts and sensitives.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, wow, what got you into this type of work? What led you here? Could you share a bit of your story?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Well, I've tried a number of different careers, and like I alluded to before, many of them I enjoyed. They aligned with my strengths, and I'm willing to work hard. I'm definitely a hard worker and was trying to be that straight A student in school and all that. And yet I kept hitting this burnout or this feeling of hitting a wall, and I really didn't get it. I was quite discouraged because I just thought that I was going to go career-wise. And I remember times of just having my head on my desk, literally in tears, shutting the door, like, what is wrong? And I'm realizing now it was a little bit of an energy meltdown. It was just like hiding away from people, but I didn't know that at the time. I didn't understand that. I was in my 20s at the first time this happened. And then it happened again, later in my 20s, like when I was around 29, I hit another wall. I like kind of shot up career-wise early on, and then had to go, whoa, hold back, took a break for a while, did a like low-level, simple job to kind of recoup, saw a career counselor, learned about introversion, and that was a big eye-opener for me. So it was like, okay, let me do a little more behind the scenes, see if that helps, because I'd been doing more like teaching and out there stuff. So I did some of that, but even still, I started to kind of hit that wall again. And that's when I realize now, looking back, that was when I had to start to learn about my high sensitivity, because it was things like cubicle environments. Like I liked a lot of the jobs, but the noise and stuff used to drive me crazy. And I would find that I could only work after everyone went home. And so I was doing these crazy hours in order to focus. So that didn't work. Anyway, eventually people started asking me for consulting on the side because I was helping people early on around, websites for healthcare professionals and understanding social media and stuff like this before most people understood it at all. And so I was like, well, maybe self-employment. I had this fantasy of having my own business. I wanted that independence. I definitely have always had an independent streak. So I was drawn to that, but I just thought there's no way that's going to work for me because I'm an introvert, or I had all these assumptions about who that could work for, and I'm not a go-getter enough or something. But I kind of tiptoed into that and eventually hit the wall so much that it was like, I have to figure this out. Even if I go broke, I've got to figure this out. So I did a little bit of a risk and left before I really had my ducks in a row. I started off just doing consulting because people kept wanting to hire me around websites and social media and stuff like that. So did some of that work. But again, I was just like, this isn't quite it. It's like my heart's not here, the skills and the experience maybe, but my heart wasn't in it. So I had this sort of sputtery self-employment journey for the first year. And one of my clients was a coach, and she said to me, you're coaching me. And I was like, so cool, because I loved that. I was lighting up. I was so happy with that client, and I didn't understand what it was. I thought it was because of part of who she was, but it was also because it became sort of coach-like. And that's when I ended up going to see a coach. I then went to a coaching training, reinvented my business, rebranded, launched as a business coach, sort of taking that business and marketing consulting, turned it into more of coaching. And it just gradually morphed. And it became more and more me. That's when I got clear on my introvert and highly sensitive niche, which that client was also. And that was another part of the clues. I just watched where was my energy high and where was it low. And I dropped the low energy and kept the high energy. And also had to work my own schedule around what was going to work for me. Like I can do only so many sessions per day, and I can only do this many days. And so once I worked that out, figured out my prices and stuff, within maybe 6 months of making that shift, I actually had a viable business, and I felt happy and good. And of course, the first year was still like, I was probably working too much and all this, but I finally hit my stride for the first time. I've never, in 12 years since my first coaching client, I have not had a burnout moment. I have not, other than, okay, I could use a vacation, but I'm like ready to get back to work after it. It's actually the biggest challenge sometimes is not working, because I really enjoy it so much. It energizes me. So hopefully that explains a little bit of that.
Yeah, completely.
Journey.
It's a complete journey of self-discovery, as I see it. And every step of the way, you were learning something about your personality, about your strengths, about what you need, what you cannot stand any longer. It resonates so much with my own story. There are so many parallels.
Yeah. I remember hearing about your story.
Yeah. So it's so similar. So you finally could say, this is where I belong. This is what I want to be doing, and everything fits. So let's move on to somebody who's watching us right now or listening to the podcast, and that person wants to has that shared freak strike of independence that we do have, and it's like, okay, I'm on my business, but things aren't working. You've worked with lots of people on that respect, Val. So in your experience, which are the most common obstacles that somebody who's right there, like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur, I'll do it, I'll make it. What are the most common obstacles that person will encounter?
I would say the first one that hit me, that I also find the most common for others, is thinking you have to do marketing a certain way, because there's so many of those free webinars that, in the beginning, you just like sign up for a bunch of free webinars because you're just trying to learn everything. You think you got to know everything all at once.
Yeah.
And they're trying to sell you something about their method and what worked for them. And they say it in a way that says, you have to do this or else. There's just this energy. And so we buy into that, like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it if I don't do it that way. And I certainly fell into that trap. But what I found it, so a lot of people feel like they have to do this inauthentic sort of something that feels icky in their body, sort of marketing, and they keep trying to do it and they feel like a failure and it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because it's not aligned. It's not genuine to you. So that's the number one thing that people fall into. And what I like to say is your inner compass is better than you think. The things that feel good to you are actually going to work better than what the guru might say. And I stumbled into that idea because it was like, I couldn't do that stuff. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So I was like, well, maybe self-employment is not going to work for me, but let me just be myself and see what happens. And it started to work. And I'm like, wait, what just happened?
Unexpectedly, it started to work.
Like it was sort of like the joke was on me. I thought it was going to fail, but it didn't. But anyway, another one that I've already alluded to also is just not prioritizing how serious our downtime, how seriously we need to take that spaciousness in our schedule, prioritizing sleep and things like that. Another one is sort of the opposite of like putting yourself out there in those ways that feel icky, but there's the hunkering down and like I'm not going to do any of it and not taking any action and just getting stuck. And the people I find who do that the most are the ones who don't really, they might have such a nest egg to help them that they don't feel the push to go earn. So they stay the most stuck when they have that. So I say in that case, or for anybody, really have some clear goals of how much you want to earn and set some time limits so that you go do it. That helps with getting into action. So the hunkering down and stalling forever is another obstacle because of that, not wanting to get overstimulated. And another one is not seeing your high sensitivity as a strength, sort of trying to hide it or work against it somehow. But like when you really deeply understand it, and most people don't. Most people come to me and say, oh yeah, I'm an introvert and I'm highly sensitive and I know what that means. And they kind of go like this. And I'm like, no, we're going to look at that. Let's really understand what it means to you today in your real life. Are you putting it to work? Are you understanding the superpowers in there? Are you bringing that forward? So that's an important piece too.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely resonate with a few things. And I wish somebody who told me before, have a clear goal and have a time limit when you're going to move your, from the chair.
It helps to have accountability and
Yes.
I guess more than accountability, community, right? Like people who know what you're doing and that you talk it through with, and you're going to see them again in 2 weeks. And, like that really makes it more powerful.
That you
Easier
feel too
to move
ashamed
forward.
to say, I didn't do anything. So you go do it.
Not just for shame reasons, but because you don't feel so alone. Doing things alone is hard.
Yeah,
just
it
plain.
is.
Maybe it doesn't work, actually.
Yeah, so true. So on those lines, would you say there is some business model or some kind of business that sensitive people should completely avoid or not?
That's a great question. It's hard for me to imagine a highly sensitive person really loving something that was like emergency kind of thing, like working in an ER type situation, or loud kind of situation. Those things seem like they would grate on us too much, but it's possible that there's so many. I mean, everybody is unique, no matter if they're all highly sensitive or not. There's still this huge spectrum of what really jazzes people. So I think I can't say there's one field that we shouldn't be in, but I think we do need to have certain qualities like control over our environment. you know, so which is great. That's the great thing about self-employment. You really are the boss. So you can choose that. It can be tricky, you know, certain kinds of businesses to find that sort of more quiet space or to be able to work from home or something. But having control over our environment, I think, is a really important piece. And doing something that really works with being authentic. We introverts and highly sensitive people tend to have more distaste of inauthenticity, more inability to fake that or to push in those directions. So it really has to work with just being real and caring.
Yeah.
You know, like our hearts are big. It's too hard to shut that down.
Yeah. And this is why I truly want to encourage everybody watching us to do their best to learn about themselves. Because,
Yes.
well, you just mentioned a few things, the noise, the no control about the environment. I started working as an architect on a construction site. Talk about noise, talk about mess, talk about conflict. It was awful. So no wonder I developed the, autoimmune illness I developed. So it's good to know yourself, because otherwise you just make mistakes. You choose the wrong choice because you have no clue. And then you feel guilty and feel bad because, hey, what happened to me? Why? I've messed it up. I've chosen the wrong path for me. So do your best to know yourself as much as you can. Learn about, highly sensitive traits, about introversion, but many other things like strengths or many other things that make us unique, as you said before. So the more you know about who you truly are, what you value, the better choices you will make for your business and for your life.
Yes.
And the more you will be able to contribute. So I just wanted to,
you're singing my song there. I agree. And let me add something there, because even people who say, oh, yes, I'm an introvert, or oh, yes, I'm highly sensitive, they've often not actually done an assessment to find out. And they might think highly sensitive means emotionally sensitive, but they don't realize what all the parts are to it. And that's not the primary thing. There's lots of other things. So I think what I'm going to give you for adding to the show notes is a place where you can actually take some assessments and really understand what these things truly are. It's some reliable research-based assessments.
Wonderful.
So I'll send you that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll make sure that everybody gets that. Okay, so now let's move on. We're in business. And as I see business, there are kind of two pillars. Okay, this is the architect in me comparing and finding metaphors connected to that. But every business has these two pillars and both need to be there. So one of that is how you work with your clients. When you do your coaching, your healing, your teaching, whatever, writing or whatever it is, that's one pillar. But the other pillar is how you promote yourself, how you put yourself out there, the marketing stuff. And in my experience, one really tends to be weak, and we avoid doing many things that would help us. So maybe, as Todd Hargrave, I recently heard him say that many people hide behind a curtain of content. They just write content, create content, put it everywhere, and avoid doing something that could be really, really, really helpful. And I cannot emphasize that enough. And it's, you mentioned it before, Val, networking. And I know you work with that too, and you help introverts and sensitives to feel better doing networking, because it's really business. It's about making friendships. So it's a good mindset shift to have. Can you give us some ideas, tips, practical things that people can learn right now and go out, right after finishing watching this, and they can go and implement? I always love to ask for, tangible, like practical steps. So
can do it today. Yeah.
What can you give us?
Well, let me zoom out for a moment around a thought about marketing, and then it'll fit within that. I think it's really important that what you choose for your client attraction methods aligns with who you are and your strengths. So you got to know your strengths, like we were just talking about. And then you choose your methods based on knowing what you're good at. So if you're good at teaching, then you might do workshops or online webinars or online courses or something like that as a way to attract clients. If you're good at writing, you might do blogging. If you're good at things like interviews, then you might do that. So choose, I like to say, choose 3 things and then go deep and focus on those.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the case of introverts and highly sensitive people, especially people who do one-on-one type work, like healing arts, coaches, certain kind of consulting, one-on-one connecting is bound to be one of our strengths. So one-on-one networking is probably going to be one of your 3 ways that you attract clients. So here's a concrete way that might look. You might be on LinkedIn and you might see someone like, oh yeah, I know that person, I'm going to connect with them. And then you what often people do is just forget about it. They just kind of move on, but they haven't like gone that next step of like, I really like that person. I would love to actually connect with them, actually have a phone call or have a, actually go that next step. Like, hey, you want to like get together in some way. So that one-on-one conversation, just like what we're doing now, to me, this is fun. This is easy. This is what we're good at, right, Charles?
Right,
Like
exactly.
just connecting and being real and sharing our stories. And it's not like you have to sell or pitch something. It's through the connection, through that genuineness, that things happen. Like, oh, like now that I've gotten to, now that we've talked and caught up, I just thought of someone, I need to refer to you, or, whatever. Things naturally come out of those connections that we know how to do naturally. So that's one tip, is just like, don't just do the little connect or pop a note, but like actually invite to some sort of one-on-one connection. It used to be take them to lunch, but with, during pandemics, it's Zoom. But we can still do that. Or take a walk if they're local.
Yeah, well,
another
for us
thing
it would
is
be difficult to meet in person because we're
that's
separated
true.
from
There's
the
an
Atlantic Ocean.
Right.
And yet here we are. So
I know, and I'm
places.
so glad we can do this. Lovely.
Yeah.
Another just principle I like to share around networking and marketing overall is quality, not quantity. But we've been told we have to get so many people on our list. We have to get so many people to follow us or whatever. It's all about the numbers. No, especially if you're focused on networking, it's actually about quality. So I like to say it this way. Think about, would you rather have 5 people who think you are amazing and love to send people to you? Or would you rather have 5,000 followers who barely know anything about you and never refer to you? I mean, to me, that just proves the numbers. 5 people who are super excited about you and keep sending you business. I mean, I'll take that over 5,000 maybe barely remember your name people.
Yeah, but we also need to respect that for extroverts out there, they'll probably feel better having that 10,000 people following them. So that's also a personality thing.
The reason those numbers work in some ways is because the numbers of people who respond are so tiny that when you have 10,000, the little tiny becomes something significant. But that's a lot of work to get that. It's sort of funny. Yes, it can still be helpful to have a larger list, but
I don't think that works for introverts.
Not necessarily.
No, I think
it can. But
I think it's hard, and we might be not agree on this point, but holding this space in your heart, in your unconscious, of how many people you can help and how many you can be present, even when you write an article, keeping them, in your consciousness, like, I want to help these people. Introverts kind of have a smaller bandwidth to deal with, big numbers. And extrovert people is like, no, I just want to be a globally known figure and I will be okay with that. It's even energetic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
How many people we can...
I think you can be a highly sensitive extrovert. So I'm not sure what that
Yes,
might be.
but not an introvert. Yeah. I'm talking more about introversion right now with that.
I think you're right. I think the numbers, I think for both introverts and highly sensitive people, the more the number, the more stimulation, the more that's going on in our mind, and it can just kind of get overdone. I know, I feel it. I pretty much don't want to do large group things anymore. I've done I've done public speaking in front of very large groups, and it was fine. And I even got a little energized at times because I was super prepared, but it was like way too much work.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that anymore. I'd much rather create pre-recorded things for courses or do small group things. I love small group energy. It makes me so happy because I want all those people.
Yeah.
And I want to connect with them. And my heart feels really happy, but it gets too many and I can't really feel the connection, or it's like too much connection. Anyway.
Yes.
I could go on about it.
Yeah, I think it's like it's my belief, based on the psychology trainings I've done and all that we are connected on a subconscious level. So we are connected to everybody who's kind of looking at us. If there are too many people, and it's like, oh, maybe I don't have the bandwidth, or I need to be extra conscious of how I deal with my energy, so I get enough to pour out enough for those who are following me. So, but that's just a thing that I personally believe.
I think you're right. Yes, and I think that is part of our makeup as sensitive people too.
Yeah,
we pick up on
I agree.
a lot of that.
Okay, so let me ask you one thing. It's a bit more personal, okay? Well, I asked you before about your story, but this goes a little bit deeper. I love to add a bit depth to everything. So just share whatever feels comfortable, okay? But I would really love to know one thing that you wished you could have done sooner or differently when you were getting started as an entrepreneur. Something you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of an open book, honestly. But the thing that pops to mind the most is, remember that independent streak I mentioned? I can be, this was more so in the past now, but really resistant to letting in help. Even when it's like, I really need it and I really don't know what I'm doing, I still like, and sometimes that was when it was the hardest to let in help because I didn't want to seem stupid. It was partly the good girl in me, like, oh, I don't want them to think I'm stupid, that I don't understand this accounting system. And so setting up bookkeeping at first was like super hard. And that is not something you should do alone unless you're an accountant. But oh gosh. So it was way too much stress in the beginning because I wasn't good at letting in help. And when I finally made the shift and I had someone who I really already had worked with before, so I already had that trust. So it's like an easier inroad for me. And we collaborated on putting together a workshop. That was the turning point for me. That's how my business became viable, was that workshop that I had help with. She helped me get in the press. She helped me get the space set up. She helped me plan it. Oh my God, it was night and day. And I felt so happy. It was such a sort of corrective experience of like, oh, letting in help could be wonderful. You can, even as a solopreneur, you can still have a team. You can have collaborators. You can co-create with like-minded people. So that was a big turning point, and that was a big struggle. So I wish I had understood how critical that was and how wonderful it would be to do that. Like, I just thought it was going to be like forcing myself to let that in, but it continued to be a struggle for me for many years. Actually, I continued to go back and forth, and I would get excited about a collaboration and then go, oh no, that's not going to work, or a lot of that. And finally I understood enough about what works for me and what doesn't in collaborative or co-creative experiences, and I can really go deep there. And I have some wonderful people on my team right now that is just giving me so much joy. My work has never been more joyful as this year of having more people on my team. So I wish I had done that sooner.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And I see a theme every time I ask. Getting help shows up. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh,
yeah.
wow.
If you go and watch past interviews, that's a common theme. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, so interesting.
People need people, no matter what kind of person we are.
Yeah.
We just have to find our way that works for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Val, we're almost reaching the end of this interview, but I want people to know more about you. So You mentioned before that you were going to give us more information. If somebody wants to go and learn more and go deeper into your teachings and understanding themselves as introverts or highly sensitive, where can they go?
Well, my website is valnelson.com, VALNELSON.com. And from there, I have some different like doorways you can try. And there's one about if self-employment is feeling hard, so it gives you some, and I'll link directly to that here. And it just kind of can help guide you through things that can be easier about it. So, in my newsletter, if you subscribe to the one about self-employment, you just get some things that will help you relax a little about it, like, oh, this can work.
Oh, I can feel the, relief just hearing you say that.
Oh, yay. Yeah. I mean, even if you're already self-employed, you might somewhere have this unconscious thought that work has to be hard, self-employment has to be long hours and always available and no sick time, no vacation time. Okay. All right. Well, think again, because I don't think that's really going to be sustainable long term.
Yeah, so
and it has to include that, and it can include those things. So yeah, check that out and I'll explain more.
Yeah, I'll make sure everything is, in the show notes, so you can go and click the link and it's easier to find everything. Great. Okay, Val, thank you so much. It was really a wonderful experience having you here. Is there any final thoughts that you want to leave us with? But before you do, let me share one that I think it's one of the greatest things you've shared today. And you've shared many. This interview, it's worth watching several times and taking tons of notes. You said your inner compass is better than you think. And I love that. So any final thoughts from our talk today?
Yeah, I think a lot about intuition and inner compass, and that's a lot of what I help my clients with, is that decision making. How do you tell what the inner compass is wanting, and how do you make those decisions where you feel stuck? I actually have a blog post called "Your Inner Compass is Better Than You Think" that explains some of this, so I'll add that too. Yeah, I think I feel complete, though. This has been so rich, and I don't want to overwhelm people. So it seems like a good stopping place to talk about your inner compass.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Val. And thank you for watching this interview. I hope you got something you can go right away and implement in your business to make it more fulfilling and more aligned to who you are. And if you don't want to miss any of the interviews, make sure you subscribe wherever you find this interview, YouTube or whatever social media you find it. Make sure you subscribe so you get notified. And thank you for watching. Until the next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.